thick fog crept through the ancient forest as Emily stumbled along the narrow, overgrown path. The moon was barely a sliver, casting a dim glow on the trees that loomed overhead, their twisted branches clawing at the sky. Every sound in the woods was amplified: the snap of a twig underfoot, the rustling of leaves, the distant call of an owl. But what unnerved her the most was the silence between the sounds, as if the forest itself were holding its breath. Emily had been driving through the countryside when her car broke down miles from the nearest town. With no cell service, she had decided to walk, following a barely visible path she had found behind a crumbling stone wall. The old man at the gas station had warned her not to take this route, something about the woods being cursed, a place people went missing and were never found. But Emily had dismissed his warnings as local superstition. Now, as the mist thickened, she regretted not listening. The air grew colder with every step she took, and an uneasy feeling settled deep in her chest. She had the distinct impression she wasn't alone. It wasn't just paranoia. She could hear the faintest sound of footsteps behind her, matching her pace, but whenever she stopped, the sound vanished. Suddenly, a whisper, barely audible, floated on the wind. Emily? Her heart skipped a beat. She hadn't told anyone her name since arriving in town. Panic surged through her as she quickened her pace, her feet sinking into the soft, damp earth. The whisper came again, this time closer. Emily? She broke into a run, the fog swirling around her like ghostly fingers trying to pull her back. Her breath came in ragged gasps as she glanced over her shoulder, half expecting to see something, or someone, following her. But there was nothing. Only the fog and the endless, dark trees. Just as she thought she might escape the forest, a shape materialized in the mist ahead. It was a tall figure, draped in a tattered black cloak. Its face was obscured, but the pale glint of eyes beneath the hood sent a chill down her spine. The figure raised a bony hand, pointing directly at her. "You should not have come," it rasped, its voice like the rustle of dead leaves. Emily screamed and veered off the path, plunging deeper into the forest. Branches whipped at her face, and roots threatened to trip her as she fled blindly through the darkness. The whispering followed her, growing louder and more insistent, until it was a cacophony of voices, all calling her name. She stumbled into a clearing, gasping for breath, her heart racing. In the center stood an old, dilapidated house, its windows dark and lifeless. Desperate for shelter, she ran towards it, not caring about the warnings that echoed in her mind. She threw open the door and stepped inside. The air inside the house was musty, and the wooden floorboards creaked under her weight. The house felt abandoned, yet watched. She looked around, searching for a place to hide. But as she moved deeper into the house, she saw something that made her blood run cold. Hanging on the walls were dozens of old photographs, all of them of her. Pictures from her childhood, her teenage years, even one from the trip she had taken just last week. In each one, she was smiling, unaware of the shadow.
Thank you for watching.